I do not see your strike as a strike against Labour. I see your strike as a strike against austerity. Simple as that. And I just say this. Our advice to Labour councillors wherever, when they go into dispute, is to get round the table and insist on the fact that it isn't chief executives or officers of the council that determine the future of a council's policies, but the councillors themselves. So we want negotiations to resolve this dispute immediately. Solidarity. There's been reference to the different disputes. I've been on various picket lines over the last, well, for most of my life, but over the recent period. I just want to make reference to them as well, because I'm really proud. The role of a Labour MP, we now reassert, isn't just in Parliament, is to be with people on the picket line as well when necessary, because we are the Labour and trade union movement. And for a period, some of people forgot it within our movement. We reassert that principle. So I was proud to be on the picket line with BA cabin crew in my constituency. I have to say, it was probably the most attractive and beautiful picket line I've ever been on. I meet the Governor of the Bank of England every month. And last month he said to me, well, I'll see you again in a month's time. I said, well, actually, no, you'll see me sooner than that, because I'll be on the picket line outside. And I'm pleased that they've settled with a reasonable settlement. But they didn't just settle for this year, they're now into negotiations for next year. So if necessary, we'll be back again. And I'm so proud of what happened as well in McDonnell's. Only 2 years ago, I went along to the Bakers Union executive and I said, would you be interested, because you represent workers in Greggs and on the high street, would you be willing to look at a fast food campaign? And to a person on that executive, unanimously, they decided to start launching a fast food campaign. And that's hard work, because you're recruiting and you're mobilising some of those vulnerable workers within our economy. But after this length of period and hard work, the demonstrations that have taken place, the recruitment, that strike last week, that strike on Monday was fundamental. And I'm so proud of the young people that came out in that dispute. The way in which they argued the case, they presented themselves. I wasn't over keen on being described as Big Mac, though, I have to say. Can I also say as well, with some of you know this story, with Steve and the POA, some years ago, because I helped set up the POA, the Justice Unions Group. I remember when they first came out, and the phone call came in to me that we're coming out, and I had to advise a Labour Home Secretary's office that they were coming out on strike, and you know this story, the response I got was, well, it's illegal. And I said, well, who's going to lock them up? And I say to Steve, when we go back into power, we will restore the trade union rights to the POA. And I was on the Barts picket line in demonstration as well. Some of the lowest paid workers in our capital city. And I was on, I don't know whether you saw it, I was on Andrew Marr the following week. And they were having Philip Hammond on as well. He won't go on the sofa with me with Andrew Marr. I don't know whether he thinks I'm going to bite him or what, I don't know. But I said to Andrew Marr, I've got a wage slip from one of the Barts workers. Give it to Philip Hammond and ask him if he can live on these wages. Because these are multi-millionaires in the Tory front benches we're dealing with, who have no idea what it's like for some of our members to choose between eating or eating, or whether they will eat or their children will eat, or like our nurses having to turn up at food banks just to survive. That's the brutality of Tory austerity after 7 years. That's why, in our manifesto, we made it clear. We will scrap the pay cap, and it is paid for how? By having a fair taxation system where the corporations and the rich pay their way through their taxes. And that's why we also say, yes, we'll have a real living wage, £10 an hour when Labour's elected. And the reason we said that is because they want to try and make it normal in our society that we have to fend off food banks. They want to make it normal in our society that people have no hours guaranteed within their contracts. We reject that normality. But there's no good just introducing a real living wage and scrapping the pay cap once. The only way that living standards will be protected, you know as well as I do, is if you join a trade union and we have trade union rights. That's why we've said very clearly, within the first 100 days of a Labour government, we will scrap the Trade Union Act that the Tories introduced. We will restore trade union rights, and we're not asking for the earth. We simply want the trade union rights that apply across the rest of Europe. Simply governments to abide by the law, the International Labour Organization Conventions on Employment Rights. It's not much to ask. Now we expect in this coming budget, there's all sorts of different hints, that Philip Hammond will bring forward a budget that somehow, mythologically, will abolish the pay cap. But the proposals that will come forward will be selective. Pay rises for some and not for others. Let me make it clear. We want the pay cap scrapped for everybody. Right, we will not be divided and ruled again. But the Tories also know there's anger building up, right? Because these disputes have come as a result of people saying we've had enough. We're not taking it anymore. Now, I think in this week's TUC, that's the message that will come out loud and clear. And let me make it absolutely clear. You have the democratic right to ballot for industrial action, and if as a result of those ballots, you support industrial action, I tell you this, on every case we've seen so far, it's been just, and therefore, yes, we'll be in Parliament supporting you, but we'll be on the picket line supporting you as well. Because we cannot tolerate a society with such grotesque inequalities of wealth and income. We cannot tolerate a society which is a food bank Britain. We cannot tolerate a society where now, after generations, for the first time in generations, more of our national growth, our national income, is going to speculators and investors than it is to the people who create the wealth in our country. It's that grotesque unfairness that we challenge, that you will be challenging. There's no need for strikes. If the government itself scraps the pay cap and introduces a pay strategy that enables people to have a real living wage and a decent quality of living. But if you determine to take that action, we know your cause is just, you will have our support. And if you decide that, yes, you will take that action democratically together, you will have our support. Because this struggle now is basically about whether or not they push more and more working class people into low wages, poverty, debt and insecurity. Our manifesto said we want a Britain for the many, not the few. That's what your campaigns will be about. A society for the many, not the few, in which we have decent wages, respect for trade union rights, and as a result of that, a quality of life that's been denied us under austerity for the last 7 years. Determination, courage, above all else, solidarity. I'm proud to be associated with this movement and this forthcoming struggle. Solidarity.